Does Murderbot have a new best friend? Or is it an enemy? Hello and welcome back to the couch. We saved you a seat. My name is Luke, and today we're checking out Chapter 2 of Artificial Conditions. This is the second book and the second chapter of the Martha Wells series, the Murderbot Diaries. We're doing reactions and reviews of each chapter of this book, so if you want to follow along, check the link in the description. Buy the book on Amazon, and we can continue, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. What an interesting chapter from one construct to another, right? We have Murderbot, who is semi-organic, semi-machine with a ship computer. I love that Murderbot describes the ship computer. He thinks it's more binary. It begins more binary than it should, and that most constructs who perform simple tasks are binary and are supported by humans, except for this one, which he just so happens to meet coincidentally. And this one is brilliant, right? Has the capacity to do hyper complex things. Hyper complex things. It's super interesting. It's interesting that it also has some limitations. My favorite part is when Murderbot is describing the conditions that are going that the ship's computer is going through in order to understand the entertainment feed, that it cries, that it laughs, it's happy, it's sad. It also super enjoys content that's similar to it. It can relate to. This thing can relate. Whereas Murderbot doesn't necessarily relate with humans. Doesn't necessarily relate with the entertainment. Murderbot's more like, that's funny, or that's dramatic, or that's entertaining. But I don't know that Murderbot relates to anything. Mainly because, and Murderbot explains in the book that, like, there are no sec unit centric stories. And if there are, they're the villain, or they're simply a side piece. So they're not sec unit centric, and so there's nothing for Murderbot to relate to because it is unique, super unique. I find that fascinating. This whole back and forth, this 22-hour journey between Murderbot and the cargo ship is a great way to expand the world. And I say that because we have not met any other constructs, right? In the first book here, there are no constructs. It's just Murderbot. It's Murderbot and the hub system, sex system, whatever network that they've described. But in this one, we finally met another construct. Something that Murderbot can communicate with back and forth, right? What I also find interesting is that Murderbot describes the way that other construct ships communicate is via lines of code, images, other things like that. This thing communicates with words, actual words, similar to Murderbot. You read it in the context. It looks like it comes up in messages in italics. It's very interesting. Their conflict to begin with is also pretty interesting. It's really well written because, not conflict, anxiety that Murderbot goes through. It's really interesting because Murderbot is so alarmed, is so at ease at this moment on this ship. There are no humans. Remember, this ship has the capacity to pilot itself completely autonomous from humanity, from human beings, which is unique to Murderbot. So, Murderbot notices that once its guard is down, once it's able to kind of sit and relax and enjoy the entertainment feed, the ship starts talking to it. And Murderbot's like, whoa. And immediately the alarms go up. It even talks about the organic parts reacting to the anxiety, to the danger. And then Murderbot having to regulate that as well. Pretty interesting. We didn't have any of that in the first book. We do in this one. Their whole conversation is wacky. It's silly. we get some ownership by the ship, which is super small. Like, a construct says, "I'm sorry." Wild. Wild. I'm sorry. It's fascinating. It's fascinating that we have like AI that takes better ownership than humans. Shout out. And the conclusion of this conversation is essentially shit talk between two constructs on what they're capable of understanding. Very interesting. We also find out that Murderbot is attempting to go to a mining colony, which I assume is the mining colony from the previous story where Murderbot killed 58, 57 of the miners that it was intended to protect. And it's going to try to find why it is that the Murderbot became the way it became. Right. It became destructive. That's my thought. I don't know. But that seems like the place to go. It does. It seems like the place to go. So I have a few predictions, but overall, before I get to the predictions, this chapter is very quick. Right? Introduce some new concepts, constructs communicating with each other via words similar to humans. That constructs have varying levels of maturity, even though they're capable of thinking at such a quick rate. And they mention that in the book, that when constructs communicate with each other, it's lightning quick, similar to a computer that communicates, that its parts communicate to each other at lightning speed. That if there's minutes in between communication, a construct, that's essentially hours. I thought that was pretty interesting. It's a great way to conceptualize how computers communicate. And then the other thing that we kind of get is that the ship is immature, but in different ways than Murderbot's immature, right? Like, Murderbot has the immaturity of like a 9 or 12-year-old who just wants to watch TV. Okay, I'll do my job, but I just want to watch TV and hang out, right? I don't want to murder people, but I also don't want people to know that I'm capable of doing the things that I'm doing. The cargo ship is dissimilar because it wants to watch content that it can relate to, but it also feels like it's gone through a little bit more maturing, like it's got big feelings. And Murderbot doesn't have big feelings, as you would say to a child. So the varying level of maturity here is on display as well. And now I'm super interested in how and what happens when Murderbot meets other people. It'd be fascinating. Oh, and the last thing so the predictions I've got, of course, Murderbot goes to the mining colony. Murderbot is doing all these things. I think this becomes a lifelong friend or whatever. I think these are mates and not in a relationship or sexual, in a relationship way specifically, like workmates. Like, they become friends because they can communicate at a deeper level. They watch TV together. They snuggled. I think it is funny how Murderbot describes how the ship watches the entertainment feed over the shoulder, like as if you have someone as a human and there's somebody peering over its shoulder and watching and breathing really, really hard. The weight of the feed, the weight of the capacity that the ship has is astronomical. The way that's described is pretty interesting too. And so my predictions are that we're going to get to the mining colony. Murderbot's going to have to navigate how to get around and really communicate with those people. I think it'll also find a way to put armor back on the mining colony. I think that's like a pretty big part of the story. He's getting back to a point where it's in the same conditions, that it can experience the same similar things, and then kind of find out why it became Murderbot. I think that's kind of the point of this book. And we'll be interested to see if this ship becomes a permanent fixture or a semi-permanent fixture in Murderbot's life. We'll see. But I do love their interaction. I especially like the final little interaction they have where Murderbot, they talk about, he says, research on this up. There were public library feeds available because it's talking about doing research on this mining facility. Murderbot is, and the ship's like, there were public library feeds available in the transit ring with information exchanges to planetary archives. Why not do the research there? My onboard archives are extensive. Why haven't you sought access to them? To which Murderbot didn't respond. Right, because it's embarrassed, and it doesn't want to talk. It doesn't want the ship to know too much about it. And then the ship says, the system of constructs are inherently inferior to advanced bots, but you aren't stupid. Hilarious. And of course, Murderbot's like, well, yeah, fuck you, and then turn itself off. It's super interesting. Super interesting that the ship is insightful. So I'm interested to see where this goes. The ship is more human. This bot is more human than the construct that is Murderbot. And I'm thoroughly impressed with the way this communication happened. It, you know, when we first interacted with the ship in this chapter, the way it's written, it kind of feels like the ship is omnipotent, like just appeared inside of Murderbot's head and it said, I know who you are, Murderbot. What are you doing here? Like, it's pretty good. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. So I do love that the bot can differentiate between a good decision and the right decision, or the correct decision and the right decision. We've talked about that ad nauseum. I think that's something people should just learn and explore in their own heads. Like, hey, what is the correct decision and what's the right decision? And can we marry them? And if we can't marry them, you have to choose. And what are the obstacles and what are the consequences and how you can relate to them. I think that's actually huge. I think that's something that's going to be a part of this book, is choosing between what is right and what is correct. Anyway, I've rambled on quite a bit. This book is pretty good. Once again, super simple. I just sprinted through this. I think anyone could. And if you want to continue to follow along, we put out content every single day, about noon and 3:30. We're going to start another series, I think a once a week series, where we tackle action movies. And we're also working on, and William and I are working on, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but The Legend of Vox Machina, because we love that show. So stay tuned for news on that, and stay tuned for more chapters of this and other things. But I think that's it for me. So until next time, later, taters.